What's happening? I inquired, observing their smug expressions as they surrounded me, each one bearing a satisfied expression. As though they had practiced this thoroughly, my in-laws leaned forward, obviously enjoying the occasion. At last, one of them raised his voice, sounding almost joyous. We must have a serious conversation. I inhaled steadily while maintaining a composed tone. Okay, go ahead, I said. Edgar, my husband, sighed deeply and looked away from me. With a long pause, he said, I sold the house to my parents, and I think we should get a divorce. My in-laws looked at one another with satisfaction, their faces smug, as though they had won a battle without a word. I put my wedding ring on the table, slid out the signed divorce papers, and said, well, I guess I'm going to be leaving. They had no idea how serious the catastrophe that was waiting for them was. Madison is my name, and I recently turned 50. We've been married for a long time. Now that they are grown up, our kids live their lives apart from us. I used to be a regular paying employee, but after a friend introduced me, I now spend my days teaching handcrafted accessories, which is a pastime that has evolved into a career. Through my relationships with my pupils and the daily delight of crafting, this new profession has become a pivotal moment in my life. Turning a pastime into a career may not sit well with everyone, but I am happy with it. I used to work for a company where I happened to meet Edgar. At the time, he worked for a client company. Our relationship grew stronger as we met, frequently at social events connected to our jobs, and ultimately we decided to get married out of love. Our family was blessed with a healthy, active boy after 3 years of marriage, and is currently contentedly married and leading a successful life. But even with our son's success, Edgar and I had a progressively strained relationship over the years. My spouse experienced a metamorphosis, exhibiting behavioral shifts. Edgar, who used to be kind and considerate, started acting demandingly and treated me like a housekeeper. His constantly shifting preferences and demands started to cause me problems. He has been irritable lately, accusing me of unimportant things, and verbal abuse incidents are increasing. My desire to leave this life and start over has been thwarted by an unpaid mortgage. Edgar, however, left his work without giving a reason, and now spends his days relaxing at home. He rarely lends a hand with everyday tasks, so I'm left to handle everything by myself. I paid for the entire rebuild of the house where we currently reside. I gradually accumulated money for its repair. I put a lot of effort into building this house, and it represents my goals and desires. If I go, I don't want Edgar to get hold of it. Aside from the debt problem, this house represents my dreams because of characteristics like the roomy kitchen that show my thoughtful decisions. I paid for everything and wanted my requests to be honored, even though Edgar had some initial input on the design. After overcoming obstacles, the house was finally built, achieving our goal. I had a great sense of happiness about our new house. But construction ended up costing far more than we had anticipated, so we had to take out a lot bigger loan than we had originally planned. We were surprised to take out such a large loan in our 50s, but the joy our new house offered gave us the strength to get through this financial strain. Conversely, Edgar came across as a little sulky, because the design of the house did not adequately represent his preferences and thoughts. He complained because he thought it was a waste of money. He would complain, "This is just unnecessary." Like throwing money down the drain, ignoring his grumblings, I persisted, and eventually he stopped speaking to me, using infantile tactics to irritate me. I pondered when this would be over. The doorbell unexpectedly rang a few months after they had moved into the new home. I was about to head for the front door when Edgar, perhaps sensing who the visitor was, unexpectedly stood up before me. Laughter and happy voices soon filled the doorway. I was surprised to see Bradley and Emerson, my unexpected in-laws, when the living room door opened. In my interaction with them, I always felt under pressure. They treated me coldly when we first announced our marriage, making fun of my lower social standing and acting awkwardly even on the day of our wedding. After getting married, their meddling persisted, and every encounter left me unsure of how to respond. I had assumed that everything had calmed down, so I was taken aback by their unexpected arrival. I gave them a kind greeting and felt a little tense, but they ignored me and bumped my shoulder as they went past without saying anything. They were in awe of the house and envious of the large kitchen. Edgar showed it to them with pride, and their expressions were content when they returned. But Edgar became severe, his voice rising against me in rage. "Make tea and some nibbles quickly." I served them quickly since I was so overwhelmed, but his parents seemed unhappy with the hospitality. "Is this all you have to offer?" Bradley whispered, and as they hurried to finish, he praised the interior of the house. Seemingly more fascinated in the design than in anything I had prepared, he commented, "It's quite lovely." Almost oblivious to me, Edgar smiled broadly and encouraged his parents to move in with. After listening to him, they departed, leaving me to observe their retrenchment. I noticed a big distance between us as I watched him talk and laugh happily with his folks, something I hadn't seen in a while. Edgar's offer caused his parents to begin coming more often. The frequency increased from a few times each month to multiple times per week, till it finally became nearly every day. However, they continued to criticize, and Edgar did nothing to stop them. His propensity to place the blame on me and his parents' growing disdain became more noticeable. With seemingly endless complaints, he constantly accused me of not listening and causing our son to suffer. Despite these everyday obstacles, I was unable to express my annoyance and had to apologize instead. The in-laws' visits went above and beyond my expectations, and they even started to visit more frequently while I was away. They would come home with Edgar, leaving clear evidence of their presence: empty bottles, beer cans, and alcohol spills that seeped into our new rug. I protested, but the new place smelled nasty and started to smell like booze. I found it incomprehensible that Edgar was so eager to complain even though he did not contribute to the household. Because of his gambling habit, there was further concern because used betting slips were frequently found. It seemed pointless to explain the dangers of gambling and how it affected our money. One evening, as I watched him shrug indifferently, I reminded him that the losses were a serious blow, especially since the money used for gambling was hard-earned through my job. After the in-laws visited frequently for about a month, they began to pick on my absences. When I got home early one day, I discovered them relaxing in our home. Startled, I went up to them. "Why are you here?" My voice was strained as I asked. After exchanging glances, one of them responded in a caustic manner. "Dear, we were merely on a visit. It's not as though you never exist." It was obvious from their statements and uninterested demeanor that they found my presence annoying. I became so frustrated and freaked out by Edgar's and his parents' arrogant behavior that I knew I had had enough. I made the decision that it was time to come up with a strategy to deal with the circumstance, rather than give in to my feelings. In the midst of this chaos, something strange happened. The in-laws paid me a surprise visit during a period when I was expected to be away. "Well, isn't this a surprise?" I remarked cynically, expressing amazement at their peculiar timing. "You only seem to visit when I'm not around." Ignoring my comment, they entered with confidence. Edgar smiled as he greeted them, causing them to examine different spaces, such as the restroom and kitchen. As I observed their thorough checks, I got the impression that they had a secret objective. They wore contented looks even as they walked away, as though they had verified something. What was the purpose of that? Edgar was the one I asked. He only shrugged, though. "It's none of your business," he shot back. His actions gave me the impression that he was hiding something. I had a sneaking suspicion that he was trying to influence me. However, it was difficult to understand the true objective. The only thing I could do was to watch. Then, one day after work, I came home to discover a big moving truck with the moving center emblem parked in front of our house. Edgar seemed to be talking to the representatives and the truck driver. He pretended not to see me and vanished inside the house as soon as our eyes locked. I was even more surprised when my in-laws arrived at the same time. They gave me a friendly greeting, and Edgar ushered them into the house. As I followed them inside, I noticed a big difference in the tense atmosphere. My in-laws' old furniture, set up as though this were their house, had taken the place of the familiar furnishings and possessions I knew. They all smirked at me as I settled upon the couch, giving off an air of entitlement. Their actions suggested a prearranged course of action. Despite my anxiety, I made the decision to wait in silence and see what happened. "We must speak." At last, one of the in-laws spoke in a tone that was almost joyous. I gritted my teeth and answered calmly enough. "What is it?" Edgar let out a long sigh and looked away. "My parents bought the house from me." As he said, he glanced at me, waiting for a response. "We ought to obtain a divorce, in my opinion." His parents gave a nod of approval. They seemed to be playing with me, judging by their sly smile. In spite of their disclosure, I was unmoved. Anticipating their strategy, I quickly put my wedding ring on the table, signed the divorce papers, and said that I would be leaving the house at that time. Edgar and my in-laws' frequent visits when I wasn't home heightened my worries about their strange behavior. I put in place security cameras throughout the house to verify my assumptions, synchronized with my mobile device. I saw their daily chats on the first day. But one day I came upon a video of Edgar and his dad happily talking about selling the house. Startled by this discovery, I made the decision to organize my next course of action, using the data from the security cameras to find a new place to live. I took the initiative to change Edgar's name on the house loan from mine. I thought they should take up the mortgage payments and other duties if they were going to kick me out of our house. I used my hard-earned earnings to pay the $1,900 monthly mortgage. I decided not to offer any financial support because I didn't think Edgar and his parents could afford this. After ending the problematic relationship, I prepared to start a new chapter in my life by moving into my newly furnished and organized home. I enjoyed the idea of getting a good night's sleep on my day off. Sleeping after noon. I was about to fall asleep again when the doorbell rang. I was shocked to find Edgar and his in-laws at my home without my invitation. "Why are you in this place?" I blocked their entrance and demanded. They put out a document in front of me and raced past me without responding. With an angry tone, "Edgar accused you of changing the name on the house loan without our consent." Incredulous at their unexpected arrival, I answered, "Yes, I did. You wanted me out after all, didn't you?" Shocked, they said they couldn't pay the exorbitant monthly loan because they were unemployed at the moment. With obvious annoyance, Edgar yelled, "We can't pay that amount if you don't pay. The interest and late fees will increase the final payment, and the bank doesn't care about your situation," I said in an effort to educate them on the repercussions of defaulting. Edgar appeared doubtful at first, but after looking up facts online, his face changed to one of surprise and anguish. "How will we proceed?" His mother's face went white as she mumbled. Maintaining a neutral tone, I shrugged. "Look for a job, perhaps." I decided it was time for a new beginning. As they became aware of how bad the situation was, their faces became even paler. Edgar had significant gambling debts and no steady income, and they both acknowledged that they had neither assets nor savings. They begged for help and understanding, frustrated, highlighting the time we had together. In an attempt to sound sincere, Edgar said, "We've been through so much despite their entreaties. I close the door and declare, I'm done. You made a decision." They were evicted from my property after becoming irate and reporting me to the police. They eventually moved to a less expensive apartment on the outskirts of town because of budgetary limitations. Edgar found a part-time job and used the money he earned to support his family. My life stayed the same in the interim, and I concentrated on my work. I launched a handmade crafts blog in my spare time, which attracted readers and doubled my monthly revenue. There was an uptick in requests for me to teach workshops and courses. I intended to live my life on my own and had no plans to get married again. I was reminded of our financial difficulties when I came across an old household account book from the beginning of my marriage. With determination, I put the account book back on the shelf and made the decision to create a new happy for myself.